Hello, I'm Henry Keane and we are Decisive English. We love what we do. And what we do, we debunk Russian propaganda with Ukrainian truth for all our global sake. See in the episode, Ukraine greets allies in the Kiev. Peace from the position of force. And both Trump and Pope blessed this Ukraine's position, each in their respective ways. United States and Germany transfer missiles and Patriot systems to Ukraine. Please join us to share the victory by watching this episode. Ukraine is ready for a full ceasefire starting right now. From this very moment, a 30-day of silence. But it must be real. No missile or drone strikes, no hundreds of assaults on the front line. The Russians must respond appropriately by supporting the ceasefire. They must prove their willingness to end the war. I just quoted President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine indeed is ready to negotiate peace, and now we should do it properly, from the position of force. The leaders of Germany, France, and the United Kingdom and Poland have delivered a unified ultimatum to Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Accept a full 30-day ceasefire beginning Monday, 12th of May, or face sweeping new sanctions. The announcement was made during a historic, no less, visit to Kiev, where the European leaders stood in solidarity with the Ukrainian president and Ukrainian people during a direct phone conversation with the President of the United States.
We expect a ceasefire tomorrow. This proposal is on the table, a full and unconditional ceasefire, long enough to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy, can bring peace much closer. Ukraine has been proposing this for a long time.
French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed that the ceasefire demand comes with the full backing of the White House, following a joint phone call with the US President Donald Trump. The proposed ceasefire would be enforced across land, sea and air, and as soon as possible. However, Donald Trump seems to be expressing more doubts recently that Russia really wants any kind of deal in his publications more and more often. Kremlin mouthpiece Comrade Dmitry Peskov, speaking to CNN, was bragging, as usual, Russia is resistant to any kind of pressure. Well, only dead matter. Comrade Peskov is resistant to any kind of pressure. And so the coordinated appeal leaves Putin just a few hours to respond. And moreover, it demands the rapid development of a ceasefire monitoring system, including satellite and communication capabilities. While Comrade Peskov remains resistant to any kind of pressure, his master is obviously not. The Kremlin came out with a statement, a demand to Ukraine to meet in Istanbul, in Turkey, on May 15th and continue negotiations there, which obviously is just a countermeasure to ignore the Allied ultimatum to cease all fire on the front line. Well, on May 12th, the Russians didn't cease any fire, they caused it. And one more humble reminder, Russia has not abided by any ceasefire agreement since the start of hostilities in 2014. Not a single one. And by doing so, Putin got himself into a trap, as now even China delivers more pressure at Russia.
On the Ukrainian crisis, China's position has always been clear. We support all efforts committed to peace and hope that the relevant parties will continue to reach a fair, lasting, and binding peace agreement acceptable to all parties through dialogue and negotiation, so as to ultimately achieve a political solution to the Ukrainian crisis.
So as I just informed you, following the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing in Kiev, the 5 European leaders jointly called Donald Trump. And Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha later described the conversation as fruitful, and also Zelensky praised it as a positive and concrete. Obviously, the diplomatic push comes amid mounting concerns over a shift in US policy under Trump's new administration, yes. And also European leaders obviously increased their coordination efforts to maintain, promote and show their unity in support of Ukraine. The only Russia's unilateral ceasefire announced by the Kremlin that I can remember of is a 72-hour truce during the May 9th Victory Day, Bacchanalia. Even that actually did not happen. Ukrainian forces report renewed artillery attacks just minutes after the midnight. Despite a lull in missile and drone strikes since Wednesday, Ukrainian intelligence and frontline units have reported significant Russian troop movements and, yes, continued hostilities. So, why am I not surprised?
We have not seen any ceasefire. There were continuous attacks by howitzers, rocket launchers. They used it all. We have not experienced any ceasefire. We acted in accordance with it, but there was no reaction from the Russians. They were as active as before the announcement of the ceasefire.
The U.S. Embassy in Kiev issued a security event alert on Friday, warning of possible large-scale airstrikes in the coming days based on intelligence reports, clearly demonstrating the lack of will to peace from the side of the aggressor. Well, when I say the lack of will, what I really mean is no will at all whatsoever in Russia. Ukraine and its allies are working against the clock to secure a path to negotiations. And while the diplomatic front is shifting, please remember the real one is held by our Ukrainian defenders, by their lives. So time is literally blood for us in Ukraine. The problem with peace is that everyone wants it to come for free, like a McDonald's family meal or something. A few ready to stand for it. Only for that few, it's indeed a core human value. And those few are hoping that the world understands them and sees them as those standing for our mutual human values.
I carry in my heart the sufferings of the beloved Ukrainian people. Let every effort be made to achieve, as soon as possible, an authentic, just, and lasting peace. May all prisoners be freed, and may children return to their families.
Well, I hate to break it to you like this, but an appeal to stop the war is good, but worth nothing. Appeal to stop the war and come to terms of justice, it is also good, but also worth nothing. Any appeal, worth nothing. What is worth is actions. Here is a revelation for you again. Ukraine was ready for peace even before the war, as it wasn't us who started it. And we have been through many promises in the course of this ferocious 3 years. And we have been stabbed in our backs by our partners. Yes, when American military aid was stopped or intelligence cut, we have been through it all. International sabotage, domestic sabotage, mass killings, mass destruction, but we're still standing. Standing for only just peace. Because any other peace is for Ukraine. It means the end of Ukraine. So why should it be different this time?
This is a crucial week in which we can take a step forward towards peace negotiations. In our view, and this is an opinion that I also share with my European colleagues, the prerequisite for this is that there must first be a ceasefire. This has been clearly articulated. Ukraine is ready for this. President Zelensky has taken a big step forward, and the expectation of President Putin and Russia is that they will now follow suit.
Well, this time it should be different because a recent visit of 5 leaders from mighty powers in Kiev who came over and called American President Trump, this is not just an appeal, it is action. And the Catholic Pope took action also. He blessed just peace in Ukraine. And the American president approved this just peace. But hey, Henry, you might ask me, what is that just peace for you in Ukraine? Well, thanks for asking. Just peace for us in Ukraine means a will to stop the war. As simple as that. Not a will to build a Russian Death Star and rule the galaxy. Not a will to shred Ukrainian children with cluster bombs in the streets like it happened in Sumy. Not a will to murder Ukrainian journalists and cutting their brain and eyeballs out like it happened to Victoria Roshchina. Not a will to burn, rape and destroy disguised as a crazy crusade against Ukrainian fascism. What are you even talking about? Zelensky is Jewish and Ukrainian Minister of Defense is Muslim. So again, let's be clear about what is going on. Russian fascist dictator said he wants to meet our President Zelensky in Turkey without even stopping killings in Ukraine. And we should take it? Well, maybe we should. And here's why.
President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the bloodbath. Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible, and if it is not, European leaders and the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who's too busy celebrating the victory of World War II, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on Truth Social.
Well, the reason for Zelensky to meet Russian fascist dictator Putin and discuss any possible pause to this war is not because Trump wants it to happen, but to show to Donald Trump and the Vatican and the US people and the United Kingdom and Europe and the whole world that Putin will break any promise, any agreement, any treaty signed, just as he did with any promise, any agreement, and any treaty he signed before. To demonstrate that to the world that Putin won't stop, because he's Putin. I mean, you can't stop a bloodbath when you are a bloodbath. And maybe Zelensky should go to Turkey and show it to the world again. Maybe this time the world will see, learn, and finally proceed accordingly.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Some war facts and footage directly from the Ukrainian military for you. Germany, with permission from the United States, will send Ukraine more than 200 missiles, including over 100 missiles for the HIMARS rocket system and around 100 for the Patriot air defense system. According to journalists, the US approved the transfer on Friday, May 9th. A US Congress officially confirmed this to the New York Times.
On Friday, a congressional official said that the United States had approved Germany's transfer of 125 long-range artillery rockets and 100 Patriot air defense missiles to Ukraine. The critically needed weapons are made in the United States and cannot be exported, even if another country owns them, without American government approval. From the New York Times publication.
These long-range missiles can be launched from HIMARS or M270 systems, successfully hitting targets up to 300 miles, which is about 180 kilometers away. Ukraine already received shorter-range HIMARS rockets before, but this new package includes long-range ones, which will significantly improve Ukraine's ability to strike deeper into Russian-held areas. On May 11th, residents of Rylsk in Russia's Kursk region reported a missile strike. A hotel building at the outskirts of the city was destroyed. It was being used as a base for the Russian 40th Separate Marine Brigade. The building was located near a key location bridge over the same river, heavily used by Russian military logistics. Well, used to be used by now. Footage shows Russian soldiers clearing the rubble. Russian media said 3 people were injured, 2 had shrapnel wounds and were taken to the hospital. The attack was likely carried out by the Ukrainian HIMARS systems. During the night of May 12th, a Ukrainian kamikaze drone called AN-196 Lyuty attacked the Kamensky chemical plant in Russia's Rostov region. This was reported by the Russian Telegram channel Shot.
The drone crashed on the factory grounds around 5 a.m. It was jammed by Russian electronic warfare. There were no injuries or serious damage. The Kamensky plant is one of the biggest chemical factories in southern Russia and a key employer in the city of Kamensk-Shakhtinsky. From the Shot Telegram channel.
Lyuty is a long-range kamikaze drone developed in early 2022 in response to Russian drone attacks using Shahid. Since 2023, it's been used regularly to target military and industrial sites deep inside Russian territory. A Ukrainian Su-27 fighter jet used GBU-39 and GBU-32 bombs to target Russian assault groups near a mining area. Welcome to watch. Russian bravado turns into a backlash. A big one, if you ask me. A fire broke out at the Yamalo-Nenetsk oil field in Russia. An oil rig collapsed, and the fire spread to the wells, and so far firefighters have not been able to put it out. And to resume today's episode, a demonstration of Ukrainian and international resolve. France and Poland signed a comprehensive strategic agreement to develop joint weapons and ammunition procurement without access introduction. Here we go.
Donald Tusk and Emmanuel Macron have signed the most significant agreement on friendship and defense cooperation since 1991. According to the French president, the motivation behind the deal is Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine and the need to focus more on Europe's security, especially as the U.S. signals intentions to reduce its presence in the region.
With this agreement, we are opening a new chapter, one in which we build irreversible solidarity and trust, strengthened by crises, especially the recent ones, and reaffirm our commitments to our peoples and to Europe. We are sending a very clear signal. The treaty includes provisions on defense and mutual assistance, supplementing our shared commitments under NATO and the European Union.
Paris emphasizes that until now, France had never signed such a far-reaching agreement with a country that does not share a border with it. In case of aggression against Poland, France commits to deploying its troops within days, Macron stressed. Donald Tusk, in turn, said that this agreement will not only benefit France and Poland, but will also strengthen the security of all of Europe through joint defense initiatives.
History teaches us, not only through the experience of our own countries, but of Europe as a whole, that kind intentions and good feelings must be backed by concrete actions. Our peoples will feel safe not when we talk about security, but when our leaders and political elites work every single day to make that security a tangible reality.
Donald Tusk also pledged to continue working with Paris through the Weimar Triangle, the long-standing alliance of France, Germany, and Poland. He made the statement during his meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The Weimar Triangle has existed since the early 1990s, but cooperation intensified significantly after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. According to Tusk, France, Germany, and Poland must now focus on modernizing NATO's military infrastructure.
I find it symbolic that on the same day you meet with President Macron in Paris and then with me here in Warsaw, I strongly urge you to find an opportunity to meet in the Weimar Triangle format. As a veteran of these Polish, German, French initiatives, I am convinced that Europe's future truly depends on how well this triangle works. But to make that happen, we need momentum, and I know you can provide it.
Poland is also preparing to sign a new defense agreement with the Netherlands. Tusk announced at a joint press conference with Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Dick Schoof. According to the Polish Prime Minister, both countries' defense ministries are currently drafting the Security and Military Cooperation document, which is expected to be ready for signing in July.
Of course, our cooperation goes far beyond security alone, but it probably comes as no surprise to you that we're devoting so much time to our shared defense. Poland and the Netherlands, both symbolically and practically, are countries that have shown deep loyalty to one another. We share all key perspectives when it comes to geopolitical matters.
Since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Poland has been systematically strengthening its defense capabilities. In 2025, Warsaw plans to allocate 4.7% of its GDP to defense, the highest proportion among all NATO member states. The Polish government has approved a record defense budget for 2025, $47 billion. In addition, Poland is lobbying for increased security spending within the EU and actively participates in Brussels' defense initiatives. Reported by Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.
That was it for today. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Henry Keane and we are News Pulse. See you at the next beat.